before I begin, we are planning to live stream this on Facebook and then later on post the recording on our YouTube channel. I hope you guys are okay with that. No concerns or
Sure,
objections.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And then the second comment I want to make is that we are offering continuing medical education credit, AMA category 1 through APPNA. APPNA is a licensed organization to offer CME. So, if you are going to talk about any medication, if it's not approved in Pakistan or something, please point that out so
Okay.
that there is no bias or conflict. And I might also jump in at some point to
Okay.
add something if necessary, just so that we don't have any conflicts. It's more of a learning exercise, and that's why we
Absolutely.
want to offer the credits for it. So let me begin formally by welcoming everyone. I know people are still slowly trickling in, and we will let them join gradually. We will also be broadcasting it on Facebook so people can watch there if they don't want to join in on the webinar. So welcome everyone. My name is Danish Bhatti. I'm a movement disorders neurologist at University of Nebraska Medical Center, and I'm the chair of APPNA Merit for 2021. Me, along with my co-chair, Dr. Baba Rao for research, welcome you to this webinar series, the first webinar on healthcare research and innovation landscape in Pakistan. So this webinar series is a learning webinar series. The goal is for all of us, including especially us, me and Babar, to learn what is the current state of research in Pakistan, what are the gaps, and what are the potential opportunities, where are these things going, and how can we as individually, as organizations, as different committees can collaborate and can work together for mutual benefit, and maybe even invest or support or fund or grant or bring ideas to the platform whichever ways we can. This will be a weekly webinar series. We'll have a different group of speakers and panelists every week from various aspects of research in Pakistan and research leadership and even innovation. So industry and industry design and marketing on these webinars. These webinars are ACCME accredited CME category 1, a 1 hour CME approved by APNA RISA committee, so Research and Scientific Affairs Committee of APNA. And APNA RISA will be graciously covering cost for offering CME for all of these webinars. We will, just to cut our cost, we'll offer the CME certificates at every 3 months. So we will keep track of who's logging in and joining different webinars, and based on how many webinars you attend, we can issue you a certificate of CME on how many webinars you attended at the end of 3 months period, 3 months quarter, so 12 webinars. So please be a little patient on that, but keep track. And if you see any discrepancies on the CMEs that you're getting, or any clarity or question necessary, send us an email on apnamerit at gmail.com or any other forum, and then we'll be happy to help you answer that. But these, you will be getting CME credits for this from APNA. So with that, let me start with our first speaker for today, who is one of the leaders in clinical trial coordination in Pakistan. So we we decided in principle that we'll start with people who actually conduct the clinical trials in Pakistan. So it's my pleasure to invite Dr. Shahab Khokar, who is the founding director of DRK Pharma Solutions, which is the first licensed CRO in Pakistan. So CRO is a contract research organization that helps actually run the trial. So investigators recruit patient, but keeping track of all the regulation, documentation, storage of the documentation, any resolutions of missing data, conflicted data, any queries related to protocol violation, making sure the protocol is conducted properly, onboarding of a new investigator, training of them, so on and so forth. So all these multiple steps of actual conduction of clinical trials are done through CROs. And unless you have a good CRO, you cannot conduct a multi-center trial, or especially multinational trials. Are just impossible to do without having someone like that. So Dr. Coker is the founder partner at Knightsbridge Capital Group, a leading private equity investment firm with projects under management worth over 70 million. He's the partner at Winscom SA, a venture capital private equity investment firm in Switzerland. And he has co-founded Cambridge Cell Networks, a bioinformatics company. And Real Business recognized that Cambridge Cell Network among the top 50 companies to watch in UK. And he's a visiting faculty at LUMS, Lahore University of Management Sciences, I believe. And he has a PhD from King's College. Really, really smart people go there. At University of Cambridge, and he has been awarded the Commonwealth and King's College scholarships during the time he's at University of Cambridge. So we are really glad and pleased to have Dr. Shahab Khoker, uh, the real doctor with PhD, among us. And I will invite you to introduce yourself and then share your presentation, and
Great.
before we move on to panelists, Dr. Shahab.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Bhatti, and good morning to everyone in the US. And if anybody is joining from Pakistan, of course, good evening. It's an honor and a pleasure to be among you and sharing with you, given the opportunity to share with you what we have been doing and what Pakistan has to offer in the clinical research space. But prior to that, I'd like to thank Dr. Bhatti and Dr. Rao who arranged this seminar. And it's a great initiative. And wherever opportunity arises, we will certainly be joining as well. And of course, I'd like to thank the president of APPNA, Dr. Rizwan Khalid, as well for setting this up and for the subcommittees and Merit, the work that Merit is doing. Great. So before I jump into my presentation, I'll just give you a little bit of a precursor. I've spent a lot of time on the other side of Atlantic, if I may. I was in Switzerland for a number of years. And being part of industry over there, had opportunities to interact with WHO, UNICEF, and it was quite disappointing really to see a lot of countries contributing towards the R&D or the global R&D worldwide, and wherever you tried to find Pakistan, it was non-existent. And so we set up to understand. Of course, I belong to Pakistan as well, and I wanted to explore opportunities where one could leverage what Pakistan had to offer. And of course, India had done a phenomenal contribution and job in doing that. Taking learnings from there, what we could do. So we started looking at the full value chain of pharmaceutical or biopharmaceutical. And as you very well know, there's very little research that takes place in Asia, except Japan, of course. But being a researcher myself, and our team, our partners looked at various things and aspects of the value chain, and the area of clinical research is something that really jumped up. So I'll address some of that. But prior to that, I know I've spoken to a lot of forums in Pakistan also, and there is a keenness in the academia really, and the sponsors of some of the hospitals to really get the research ecosystem going in Pakistan. So I'll share some of our thoughts. What are the areas where Pakistan should start, and why those are the areas are quite optimal at this point in time, and then really build up in a stepwise manner. So I'm just going to share the presentation, if I'm allowed to share. Is my presentation visible, sir?
Yes, we can see it.
Great. Fantastic. So before I kick into the presentation itself, a little bit about DRK Pharma Solution. It's a Swiss entity. It's a Swiss company which has got a main focus in areas of clinical research and product development. And we are covering clinical research conduct in South Asia, predominantly Pakistan. So we became the first licensed CRO of Pakistan. And the other division of group of scientists of about 40 that are developing products for European countries. Of course, there's a very large network of global experts that are connected. There are some Indians, some US, and some from Europe as well. So there's a brilliant set of scientists that are conducting that. We have been, from day one, have been conducting phase 2 to phase 4 trials. Dr. Atif Mirza, who is on the panel, has been associated with GSK for running clinical operations in Asia, predominantly Pakistan. Our regional focus is Pakistan, but we look at the complete South Asia, excluding India, which of course has an abundance of, so this is about, Pakistan is about 220 million people, and rest of the countries included, equivalent to more or less Pakistan size as well. We have been successfully audited by global companies like Roche, like Abbott, Servier, the French, Sanofi, Novartis, and Roche as well. So building biopharmaceutical research ecosystem in Pakistan. So what is the optimal stepwise approach? So if we look at the, the drug development pathway, so you start from your drug discovery phase, then you move towards your preclinical development, in which you have your chemistry, pharmacology, and of course industrial. Then you move towards the clinical pharmacology studies, where you have phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, and then of course your post-approval phase. So where do we? So if you talk to a lot of aspiring researchers, or in Pakistan also, there is a lot of thought on starting from drug discovery. And I think this is completely the wrong end of starting for a country like Pakistan. I think we've got to look at the other way around. And I'll share some of the data that we have um, consolidated for you. If you look at the success levels at the drug discovery phase, so less than 10% make it to the preclinical development. And if you go to preclinical development, only about 27% make it to the clinical development, and so on and so forth. And if you look at the investments required, so for every one successful drug discovery phase, you've got to invest close to about $500 million to $1 billion, right? Because success rates, and it's a long gestation period. So if you look at the likelihood of success in the development cycle and the development phase of until the product makes it to the market, as you are in the more later stages, the likelihood of the probability of the success is higher. So, and obviously inversely, the risk is lower. So we believe that the right place for Pakistan, or an emerging or an aspiring researching country, or a researching area, is starting really from the phase 3, and then moving towards phase 2, where your risks are higher, your investments are and the likelihood of success is lower as well. So this is just an example. I mean, how complex the drug development roadmap. It's just a drug that is still under development. Dr. Bhatti mentioned it. So just to qualify, it's still under development. So it's since 1996, sotuzumab, which is an anti-TB drug, is under development. And prior to that, there was a discovery phase. So there have been so many movements up and down, so many collaborations, and the drug has still not made it to for any marketing authorizations. Lately, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has signed up from Medicine Patent Pool, whom again we work very closely with in Geneva, and to conduct phase 3 trials, to carry on conducting phase 3 trials. And this is still ongoing. And we have lately seen, in the case of vaccines, again, the advent of vaccine took place by collaboration of very many companies. For example, Pfizer collaborated with BioNTech. The mRNA technology has been under development for over 15 years. People talk about it being a new technology. Yes, it's the first time technology that has come to the foray for consumer use, or for the patient use, but it has been under development over the 15 years. So you can imagine the kind of investment that goes into from the drug discovery to the next phases. So how do we see the pathway towards originator research, or for Pakistan? It's really the inverse that we see, starting from phase 3, phase 2, phase 1, preclinical, and then possibly discovery. I've not put the timelines at all. I think it'll probably run into decades. So I didn't want to sort of paint a slightly depressing picture over here, but realistically speaking, it will take us years, if not decades, to move towards possibility of drug discovery. the new molecules. Um, so phase 3 clinical research, we believe, is an ideal starting point for initiating research in Pakistan, and then gradually integrate, backward integrate once the country has built the resources, talent, and the risk appetite. Right now, I mean, we have seen some crazy examples where people just want to follow the herd theory. There is absolutely no innovation, and there's very little due diligence. I mean, I'm sure you were seeing, and I'll take the analogy with a lot of the startup scene and the tech scene. I mean, I get invited to speak at that and maybe judge as well. As soon as you added a .com to something, you believe that you've got an idea, but there's very little due diligence that is taking place. So I think we are not quite ready for intellectually also to take up, such a early stage developments. And of course, mind you, there is a great deal of confidence building that the global R&D world needs to see from a country like Pakistan, which has really had a very patchy pathway on clinical contributions. GSK was doing it with anger until 2013-14 in Lahore, which Dr. Atif Mirza, who's the president of clinical operations with us, was heading. And they outsourced it to PPD, which is one of the global large CROs. They decided not to come to Pakistan. So of course, that ecosystem had a break. But Pakistan has had enough on the plate when we were looking at it, that there was a few handful of centers which were contributing towards that. So I think confidence building of global R&D or re-confidence building is of critical importance. And I think once Pakistan has shown success in multi-country phase 3 trials, where the sponsors have really diversified risk, single country phase 2 and phase 1 trials would also begin to come once we have built a track record of phase 3 multi-country trials. As you know, one of the trials that we did for a French company, Pakistan was the 9th country that was added to the basket of trial countries. And you will be delighted to know that we became the second highest contributor with compliance to the French company as well. So there are signs that it is the right path. So we have now established that the right place for Pakistan to start from, and the focus is phase 3. So I'm going to jump right into it and leave other phases really on the side for now. So clinical research, I think Dr. Bhatti had beautifully covered all the areas. So I'll just highlight very quickly. So clinical trial feasibility management, can that trial be done in Pakistan? For example, if it's a rare disease, you've got to do a full feasibility, monitoring, statistical analysis, and right till the pharmacovigilance and monitoring all the adverse effects and SAEs as well. So global clinical trials market is valued at about $70 billion, is expected to be $70 billion by 2024. And Asia Pacific is forecasted to record the fastest growth in the CRO services and will account for 20% of the global CRO market by 2022. So Asia has, which includes your China's and Malaysia's, of course, Vietnam has become a very key player in later years, and I'll share some of the data. So this is how the overview of the global, how the global clinical trial market has grown. And look at the number of trials that have really shot up since 2005. So there is a lot of biotech play that started coming into the midst, and we are seeing very many drugs being developed, large number of trials that are taking place. So China has been a key global contributor in recent years. If you look at from just $2.6 billion contribution in 2015, they are doing about $12 billion as we speak now, and expected to grow at a much greater rate as well. Clinical trials, of course, in India has crossed over $2 billion as we speak. On Malaysia is doing about $200 million, $250 million, and Pakistan is almost non-existent. So I think we are all set to change that. We are working towards the Pakistan clinical research markets. Like I said, they are insignificant at the moment, but I think this can change, which has been shown by the Asia Pacific countries. This can be done, and we estimate that 150 to 200 million dollars is something that Pakistan should comfortably reach. And of course, we have confessed with the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Commerce, Trade, Export Development Board, and various other stakeholders, bringing them on board on the importance of this area, and how this not only develops an ecosystem for the country to do research, but also can be a great contributor towards the economic upstream as well. However, alignment of the following stakeholders is critical in any country, which includes the CROs, which is us, regulators, principal investigators, and clinical trial sites. So over the last 5 years or so, we've really been spent a lot of time working towards bringing all the stakeholders, and I'm very happy to update and report this forum that I think there is some sense of streamlining with the global GCP/ICH guidelines is there. We were the force behind getting biostudy rules 2017, which in fact got approved in 2018, approved, and then that made it a highly regulated industry, which was necessary to be able to portray to the regulators globally and to the sponsors globally and the large CROs that yes, this country has got now the regulatory framework really to push and undertake global trials, which would contribute towards the drug development as well. So Pakistan, so we did a comparative on how competitive Pakistan is with rest. So we were there was Frost and Sullivan research that Pakistan right now Asia became a clinical research powerhouse due to the availability, of course, vast treatment naive patients, a very large population, excellent clinical infrastructure, talent, and of course, coupled with low cost management as well. And if you look at Pakistan compared to Asia Pacific, I think right now Pakistan provides that sweet spot for the sponsors as long as the compliance can be achieved, which we have shown, and of course some of the work of our team members prior with GSK has shown that the quality and the compliance can be assured, and some of the drugs in the last 10-15 years had been successfully approved by US FDA, having had data from Pakistan as well. So this is a Business Recorder article that was published on the opportunity. So right now, jumping into Pakistan, what is the landscape right now? Where do we stand? What are the kind of infrastructure there is? What kind of facilities there are? So we know that there are centers of excellence in the country in various therapeutic categories, right down from Karachi, Lahore, and Islamabad, and quite a few of them. I'd say about 26 plus. Our team has had direct experiences of conducting clinical research, and as we are speaking, every month centers are going for getting their licenses from the regulator to be able to conduct clinical trials. So really, there's a buzz, and I think it's the COVID that has really played that role, because we were able to attract some of the trials to come to Pakistan, and the sponsors and the countries, or the sponsoring countries, have had a very positive experience with Pakistan. so far. So disease burden in Pakistan matches the global drug development programs. So again, there was a lot of research that we do in terms of where can Pakistan really contribute towards the new drug development programs. And if you look at the number of drugs being developed or the trials ongoing, oncology is right up at the top. Then, of course, you have your infectious diseases, rare diseases, diabetes, and cardiology. We have not got malnutrition here, but we are running a trial in malnutrition from Queen Mary University of London. So recent situation analysis, clinical trials conducted by indication, there isn't a very large number, but if you look at pretty much all the therapeutic areas have been covered and trials have taken place in the country over the last few years. These are some of the oncology drugs that were approved with Pakistan data. Again, you see some of the very, very large products in which, of course, our team with their previous companies was very much part of conducting these very sensitive trials. Genetics and rare diseases in Pakistan. Of course, we know consanguineous marriages are root cause of genetic and rare diseases. Unfortunately, Pakistan has a very high incidence of these marriages, and in Pakistan, after infectious diseases and malnutrition, the biggest killer in children is genetic diseases. So genetic diseases are poorly understood at the level of policymakers as well as physicians caring for children. In fact, we participated in a conference as well, which on 28th February, which was a rare disease day. Again, if you look at Pakistan, unfortunately, is at the worst end of consanguineous marriages, and again, reflecting towards rare diseases, which enables us, of course, to be able to portray Pakistan for rare disease clinical trials as well. So so this is really, I'm giving you a flavor of what's ongoing. Of course, there's a very large database and study that we have on oncology on every single segment really that we have gone through in the last few years. Some biomarker studies that have taken place in Pakistan on rare diseases, and some bits and pieces of some global names have ventured towards Pakistan. Centrogene, of course, is a leaders in rare disease, and they are conducting rare disease clinical trials in the country. And then, of course, there are infectious diseases trials by various companies, vaccine trials that have taken place and continue to take place in the country. Regulatory environment in Pakistan, it is in the process of being streamlining with the global ICH GCP guidelines. According to the biostudy rules, I think I've already mentioned, it is now a highly regulated space, which slowed down the things a couple of years back, while all the players or the stakeholders tried to understand the space. But now I think it's fairly streamlined, and I'll share some of the timelines that we have been able to achieve for getting the clinical trials on track. So right from your license application, clinical trials approval, ethical clearance, safety information, right till the clinical trials monitoring. So in general, if you are applying for a phase 2 or phase 3 clinical trial in Pakistan, it will first have to go through the approval of IRBs, and along with that, you can go in parallel. You can go for National Bioethics Committee, and once you have the National Bioethics Committee approval, and you have at least one IRB, if it is more than one multi-center trial, at least one IRB, and you can proceed with the regulatory approval, which is expected to receive in 8 to 10 weeks, of course, provided upon how good a dossier and how good a solid dossier and the data and independent publications that you were able to submit. However, we have seen accelerate regulator really supporting in obtaining approvals for COVID-19 related trials, where again, the timelines are almost halved for COVID related trials for emergencies. So everything is put on back burner, and we are seeing the regulator really going for accelerated approval timelines. Recently completed global clinical trials in the country. There was a COVID-19 treatment trial that was done by the Harvard School of Public Health, and principal investigator was from the Harvard Medical School, collaborated with the government of Punjab to conduct this trial. Other recently completed trials include a couple of studies, oncology studies by Roche, and these are the studies that we have helped close ourselves. This is the French multinational trial that I was referring to, which was published and presented in Busan, Korea. Of course, this is pre-COVID, when things were normal and people could visit in person as well. There's an ongoing trial of Queen Mary University London, of rickets, and this is the large trial that we are conducting. It's a COVID-19 vaccine trial spanning to about 10,000 subjects. So I thought I'll share a little bit of details of this trial, that how Pakistan has been able to bring this together, and how so end-to-end compliant and efficient handling of the COVID-19 vaccine trial and illustration. So it really started from sites identification as per the protocols shared by the sponsors, then went into the bioethics committee submission, IRB approvals in parallel, draft submission, including the site approval application, training of the CROs, CRAs, I beg your pardon, as well as the staff of the clinical trial sites, monitoring recruitment of volunteers, facility, laboratory testing services, their central laboratories. The requirement of the sponsor was a central laboratory. They had their team over here as well, which did the full audits and selected with positive feedback. IMP imports, investigational medicine imports, logistic services, and warehousing, with all the required temperature mapping, with data loggers and whatever have you. Clinical trial supplies management from end to end, 85 SKUs that the trial needed to procure, and we were able to arrange everything in Pakistan. Archiving of clinical trial data, trial monitoring and trial site management. Of course, that's the core function that a CRO would provide. Of course, that is an ongoing process as we speak. Pharmacovigilance, adverse effect reporting, and systems as well. And I think I can share my experiences with you as well. I mean, we have in Lahore, there's a site called National Hospital. So they were trained there, and there was a great deal of excitement that we have seen from the clinical trial sites, a genuine interest to become part of a clinical or the research ecosystem in the country. So I think it's really the lack of opportunities that we see. I've seen, I mean, National Hospital, I visited myself. They have put the brightest and the best of their doctors for the trial, who are excited to be given the opportunity, and the training and their detailing. I mean, I went in as a subject to participate in the trial, and it was remarkable how well trained and how well handled the site and all the staff was. So it really goes on to say, show us that it is, if you have the right opportunities, you have the right structures in place, the ecosystem over here can absorb. So this is an achievement of FPFP, which is what we call the first patient first visit. So it's really started from the site feasibilities, then went on to CDAs and master service agreements, definitive agreements. Of course, there's a lot of paperwork that needs to go into play. Then ICA GCP compliant training sessions, and of course, those training sessions are an ongoing process as we speak. But it was done on war footing, given that it was COVID situation. Our frontline team, of course, Dr. Atif himself, and so we got great response right up and down the country to really facilitate. And I must commend the regulator who bent backwards to enable us meeting the tight timelines that we were working. I mean, it was quite surprising. I mean, I've heard that it's the first time the draft probably team was sitting until 10 p.m. Issuing the letters and approvals for this particular trial, and of course spending weekends so that we are able to import in time and start the trial as well. Of course, and of course, as you can well imagine, large number of moving parts in a trial of this scale in the country, and we are able to, and the country is able to handle. I must say that Aga Khan is one of the sites, and many other. There are about 10 sites that the trial is ongoing as we speak. So benefits of clinical trials for medical community and patients in Pakistan. I think it is the country or the community is hungry and then for an opportunity to be given to participate. And like I said, we have already seen firsthand how keenly the brightest and the best are coming forward to contribute towards that, and really available 24/7. So we have seen clinical trials to establish safety and efficacy of new interventions, availability of alternative treatments when the existing ones are not effective. Of course, this is something that the patients in Pakistan are completely. In India, there is a very large, and rest of the world, wherever trials are taking place, our medical community is very well exposed to the Western world or the rest of the world as well, and they're aware of the clinical research taking place. And sometimes you have just no other alternative but to try the new treatments under trial. So we don't have that opportunity, or the patients in Pakistan don't have the opportunity. Comparison of existing treatments for more effective use with decreasing side effects. Again, that is something that is missing at the moment, or is really at the margins. Clinical trials may significantly improve a patient's life quality by lengthening life, and of course, allowing HCPs to be engaged in cutting edge of global R&D. So various thought processes we keep giving, brainstorming sessions that we have. One of the thoughts that we have shared here is like setting up a clinical research society or an association in the country, bringing all the stakeholders together, really initiating, discussing, having various forums. I think one of the beautiful forums that you have, Merit here, and Dr. Bhatti shared with us the various streams that you have. I think that's certainly a way to go. And in India, of course, there are a number of associations in Malaysia and various other parts. State of the art, just wanted to touch upon it. In the clinical trials, with the COVID times, of course, we have seen decentralized or DCTs have really making a very strong statement for coming into the mainstream, if I may. Of course, it makes the collaborations easy, and accessibility of clinical trials participation becomes far more convenient than on-site or on-premise. This is something that I think Pakistan doesn't have at this point in time, but I think we are keeping an eye of making it ease for the stakeholders, in particular the patients and the subjects, where we can participate. So showcasing Pakistan as the destination for global clinical research, I think that is for us. Like I said, we've spent a large number of years in understanding and really showcasing that yes, it can be done. Uh, it's not a one-off that has happened before. There are right fundamentals. So we have the largest population available, a very large population available. I think we've now become probably the fifth largest, most populated country in the world. We have treatment naive patients, so there are very few competing trials going on at this point in time. We have English speaking uh, doctors and nurses, and of course, all the documentation is in English, other than, of course, the consent form. The regulator is becoming far more supportive. The government is enabling this area or this segment with greater keenness. And we are also seeing that there's so we have IC now. There is a handful of ICH GCP compliant experienced clinical trial sites. Fast pace of recruitment is possible, has been made possible by, of course, the population, but also because of the large number of disease burden in most of the diseases that is available. Uh, and of course, we have US and UK trained principal investigators. We have local fellowships as well. So we feel that this is the question of really putting Pakistan at the right spaces, and I think clinical trials is indeed an optimal area to get the research system and then backward integrating the country towards that. So thank you very much with that, and appreciate your time. And if there are any questions, I'll take that, please.
Thank you, Dr. Shahab. This was wonderful. I have tons of questions. I have like one question on every slide that you have, but I will not take advantage of being the moderator for today. What I'm thinking is that let's do this. Let's have you first invite each of your member of your team one by one, panelist, and have them introduce themselves and make any comment they have. And then I would love to introduce the team from my side that I have. And then we'll see if we have some time. We'll do a few questions, and then we'll leave most of the questions for later discussions or some other follow up to stop on time and respect everybody's time. So why don't you go ahead, Dr. Shahab? Who would you like to invite first for introducing?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Bhatti. Dr. Atif Mirza, who's our President Clinical Operations. He's an MRCP by training, spent a number of years in the UK, been a practicing physician, and also over the last 20 years in the clinical research space. He was heading the GSK's clinical research operations in the country in Lahore. Over to you, Dr. Atif.
Thank you very much. I just want to comment here that looking at the questions which were coming up and the comments on the chat side, there are a few things which I would like to answer them upfront here. The phase or 2 or 3 or going back from phase 3 towards the drug discovery is something which we are trying to for facilitating the clinical research coming to the country. It's not that we are only focusing on phase 3 and not on phase 2. We are able to conduct phase 2 and phase 3 studies that which have been going on for some time in Pakistan, which were sponsored by companies like GSK and Pharmacia, Roche and other big companies and other sponsors. We have been doing those and we are still conducting them. So it's only to build up the infrastructure properly. It was only suggested that, going backwards would probably reduce the risk. The other thing which I read on most of the comments is basically, we have trained sites or not. Yes, we have trained sites, and for the last 20 years, I have been collaborating with all my other colleagues in the CRO space in Pakistan in training the sites and training the investigators, and they are fully trained now. And most of these sites having had done their work in phase 2 and 3 also know what they're doing. If I put it up, I think we missed one slide which we can share later on if wanted. Most of our team is followed on from GSK, and our experience is basically from the previous companies. And we have conducted those trials, the phase 2 and 3 trials, the data of which was presented to the regulatory authorities, be it FDA or EMEA, and I think it was also approved there. So We have all the experience, and we have all the experienced sites as well as the infrastructure here to conduct those trials. As far as the database, one comment was on the database and sites in Pakistan. Yes, there are quite a lot of sites, good sites like Shifa, Aga Khan, Shaukat Khanum. They have good CTUs. They are already working on trials, and it's very easy to go and talk to them and establish or bring some sponsored trial to them. But you can also work on smaller or on the second tier, I must, if I may say, on the second tier hospitals like Dow University Medical College or Hospital or Bio Hospital or Jinnah Hospital or other teaching hospitals, teaching medical college hospitals where we can already have good established infrastructure and available sites as well. I think that's probably, I just wanted to comment on these chats which were there on the right side. The last one which I'm seeing is the cardiology related trials conducted in Pakistan. Yes, cardiology related trials have also been conducted in Pakistan. Recently, most of the trials, as you know, were on oncology, and that took the major portion of clinical trials in Pakistan. But other specialties are also being catered very much properly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Atif. Thank you very much. Alam Jaffrey is in the company as well. He's a director commercial and operations. He's a pharmacist by training. Started his career with Servier, and I think has had an opportunity to work with cardiology products as well. So over to you, Azam. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. I've been, associated with this organization from day one, and we are, working day and night to establish this clinical culture in Pakistan, as Dr. Atif already mentioned. And we are, we consider ourselves successful in lucrating international investigators and international trials to Pakistan. I believe this forum is probably the best of the forums I have ever been invited, with the right people to talk to brief them about how good Pakistan is now for establishing the clinical trial situation. I have been a very strong promoter, because this is my job, to visit all the clinical research organization based out of Singapore, Europe, and anywhere in the world. And the most important thing is that the people from Pakistan, like the good doctors of APPNA, should definitely be our, the strong supporter of the clinical research in Pakistan and bringing it to the level where we want Pakistan to be in. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Azam. Very kind of you. Dr. Amar Masood, who's also joining us. He's formerly from Otsuka. He's the medical safety officer there and with a medical doctor by training. Dr. Amar, over to you for some comments, please.
Welcome everyone, and thank you very much, Dr. Shahab and Dr. Danish. As everyone said, that we are in the process of developing a culture of bringing trials, clinical trials to Pakistan, and as Dr. Shahab has already mentioned, the government, the regulators are also very much interested in bringing the environment in a feasible environment currently for running such clinical trials in Pakistan. And APPNA as a forum is really hard today, being overseas Pakistanis are very much considered these days by the government as well. Can help us in developing such a sort of culture and bringing international trials to Pakistan. A lot of questions are coming up, popping up, commenting on the credibility. The most important thing as an organization that we consider is the implementation of ICH-GCP guidelines and following all the ethical standards, and to maintain the global standards and conduction of at every step of conducting any work that has been provided to Pakistan. That build up the credibility and that build up standard. And at such an initial state, it is the most key area that has to be considered. So looking forward, very appreciating comments are coming up as well. Thank you everyone. And thank you for the opportunity of message. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ma.
So thank you, Dr. Shahab, and the panelist. Before I invite members of my team to introduce themselves, I just want to say that I see some really wonderful people in the webinar as attendees. I would love to try to give them an opportunity to make their comment or ask any question live. So if you want to raise your hand, I will try to get to you and give you microphone towards the end. I know we will not be able to cover all the questions, but at least we'll have a start of a discussion. If you want to introduce yourself, or if you want to make any specific comment, raise your hand, and we'll try to get to you right after introducing the people from my side. I also wanted to invite Dr. Adil Bhatt, who I think just dropped. He is in Qatar, so it's probably a different time zone. So Dr. Adil Bhatt is the chair of APPNA RISA committee. So APPNA RISA is the Research, Education, and Scientific Affairs Committee. RISA committee is the one that provides all continuing medical education. So they are sponsoring and providing and bearing the cost of all CME for these webinar series. And Dr. Adil Bhatt does all the CME programs at different APPNA meetings in North America, and has been a wonderful senior partner to Merit in these webinar series. So I want to acknowledge that in his absence, and I didn't have a chance to have him make any comments, but I really am thankful to him. So let me invite my mentor and my senior co-chair, Dr. Shahid Rafiq. Dr. Shahid Rafiq had been chair of APPNA Merit for last 5 years, and then he very kindly and graciously handed over the baton to me this year, but I'm still a chair in training under Dr. Shahid Rafiq. So Shahid bhai, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for the speakers and panelists. I think it was a wonderful first talk in a series of webinars that we carefully cultivated and organized. I think this is the most exciting year, I would say, in the history of APPNA Merit that I've been involved with since its inception from 2007. I think not only us at Merit members, but general APPNA membership is very excited. I know for a fact that a lot of researchers, a lot of great academicians in APPNA, they had this sort of a complaint with APPNA that, APPNA being a professional organization of doctors is not doing much towards education and research and what we do on a daily basis and what we are good at. And it has been a great social networking platform in North America, which served well for Pakistani physicians and communities in North America. But I think rightly so, a lot of doctors were dejected at the course, which did not include a pure research and education goal or pathway. So I think Merit, I'm very, honored and delighted to be part of it. Obviously, Dr. Babar Rao, who's present here, was my mentor and my, predecessor, and we are still a team. Dr. Nahid Usmani started this, and I think she would have been here. I think her daughter is getting married today, but we are still together. So it's really a teamwork, and I think Danish is rightly placed as an academician and researcher himself to lead this committee better than anyone else, and I'm very hopeful that we will translate this webinar series into a very meaningful connection, which we obviously, with COVID, the distances have not been, there have been more distances, but I think hopefully by the end of this year, we are hoping either in October or December, we will have a in-person conference in Pakistan, and we would love to meet all of you. And the people who are not in Pakistan, we would invite even from UK, Australia, anywhere, to come to that conference so that we can meet in person and discuss in more detail the actionable practical steps. I think this year we are exploring, and that's obviously logical first step. But I think I see a very clear, exciting path for the common goal, which is to elevate Pakistan to a level where international clinical trials, device manufacturers see it as a very credible partner. Thank you.
Thank you, Shahid Bhai. So let me quickly have other people introduce themselves and make a comment, and then hopefully we'll also be able to take. I see 4 people have raised their hands. So Dr. Babarao, if you want to briefly in 1 minute introduce yourself as co-chair of research for Merit.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. So I am a dermatologist and a pathologist, and I research with Rutgers and Cornell in New York City. And I've been playing with Shahid and Danish over many years how to improve APPNA education and merit. And now I think really this was our hope, that will bring people like you to the forum and learn from you, and then basically let APPNA membership learn what's happening in Pakistan, or what is possible in Pakistan, and then somehow just expand on this area of research, clinical trial, and device market. Thank you.
Dr. Mustafa Siddiqui, chair of APPNA Merit Research Committee. Please go ahead. You're muted.
Sorry, I think I was muted. Assalamu alaikum. I'm a professor of neurology and neurosurgery at Wake Forest University in North Carolina. So I've been involved in clinical trials. I think I've conducted about 20 clinical trials, device-related neurosurgical trials, as well as phase 2, phase 3. So for the last 15 years, very excited about this whole initiative by APPNA to really gather information about what's happening in Pakistan. Dr. Coker, thank you very much for sharing all your insight about that. Just to end my introduction, I will end my introduction with a question also, which came to my mind. So one of the main goals of this project is to understand what are the hurdles which you guys are facing there at the CRO level, at the PI level, at the coordinator skill level, as well as the reputation of the Pakistan in general in the eyes of the sponsors, because we all have relationship with big industry, and we might be able to help. What is your ask from us, from the Pakistani diaspora who are involved in clinical trials? So that would be a recurring question, which we would be asking to all the stakeholders for Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Siddiqui. We'll circle back to this particular question in a few minutes. Let me invite Dr. Fareed Suri, our co-chair for Merit Research Subcommittee. Dr. Suri.
Thank you, Dr. Danish. It was a very exciting, very, I think, useful for us to hear about that. As everyone knows that with your supervision of Dr. Mustafa Siddiqui, we are trying to figure out how we can help develop research in Pakistan, and I think this is one of the very useful information that we got from that. I myself am a stroke director at a hospital, and very interested in building up research. Has participated in many, more than 100 research publications. Done a lot of research with community research, national health surveys, with clinical trials, also with all kind of research, including animal research and other local hospital-based studies. So I would be very happy to see how we can help develop further research in Pakistan. Thank you, Danish.
Thank you, Dr. Fareed. I see a few hands raised. Let me go to them one by one in order of them raising their hands up. Let me start with someone who doesn't have a name. It says Android, Blue Droid. So if you want to make your comment, please unmute yourself. Okay, let me go to the next one. Dr. Sarfraz Hasni, please unmute yourself.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for doing this. And I just briefly introduce myself and some of the resources that I may be able to share with the community here. So I am by training a rheumatologist, and I've done master's in clinical research from Duke, and I'm director of clinical research in lupus at the NIH intramural program for the last 10 years. And done a lot of early phase clinical trials because that's where the NIH is mostly focused on. I just wanted to say that there are a number of clinical research resources that are available, which are, a lot of them are actually free now and then online. I put in a link for one of the courses, which is actually one of the best courses in the world, where it's taught at the NIH, but about 140 universities around the world use this course for their clinical research training. And there are a number of other resources. So I just want to put my email address in the chat box. And if somebody would like to get more information, I'll be happy to provide that.
Thank you, Dr. Hasni. Please reach out to apnamerit@gmail.com. We would love to collaborate more with you. Dr.
I did though in the past,
Ubaidullah,
but anyways.
yeah. Dr. Ubaidullah Malik, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Danish. I'm Dr. Ubaidullah, and I am Director at Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan. In fact, Dr. Shahab has very beautifully articulated his DRK case and Pakistan in general, and Pakistan's scenario in particular as well. Being a regulatory authority, I assure all the participants that Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan right now is on the track of facilitating and incorporating and incultivating all the clinical trials in Pakistan. Taking opportunity, Dr. Shahid, in his last visits a couple of weeks ago, we have a very successful meeting. Our CEO draft, Dr. Asim Rauf, was also present, and we assured Dr. Shahid and that we will fully cooperate and coordinate with the APPNA merit. Only objective is to facilitate Pakistan diaspora who is involved and who is interested for clinical trial in Pakistan, and it will definitely upgrade the capacity and facilitation work of the DRAP as well. So, and he has also asked for the presentation from the DRAP perspective, for which I have already consented to be any time which the merit will think appropriate. So thank you very much. And DRAP is always available for any type of help. If any Pakistani diaspora want to do clinical trials in Pakistan, although Shahab has shared one example that DRAP has worked till 10 p.m. But now all together the scenario has been changed, and you can see DRAP working all together in day and night. And one thing I want to share, that the first time in the history of the DRAP, Pakistan has conducted one clinical trial of the cancer biologicals of 18,000 individuals, participants for the COVID vaccine. And first time in the history, on the basis of this clinical trial, DRAP has granted the approval of that very vaccine. And after Pakistan approval, China has accorded approval. So it's a feather in the cap of DRAP as well. So thank you very much for very beautiful arranging the very wonderful session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Malik. It's a pleasure having you. And we're looking forward to your talk. And I'm so delighted to have your guidance, advice, and support as the regulatory authority. You will be the one guiding us and advising us how to do a better job and how to move forward. Dr. Shahab, you had a comment?
Yes, absolutely. I was just going to commend the efforts of DRAP. I think Dr. Malik himself and Dr. Asim Rauf, who's the CEO, they are the flag bearer of the change that we are seeing. So Dr. Ved, much gratitude to you and your team who is putting in day and night to make this sector flourish and become and be put on the global map. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Let me invite Dr. Mujtaba Qadri. Dr. Qadri, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, okay. Am I mute now?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yep.
It's Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Wonderful to participate in this session. I just came to Maruf for my IV remdesivir and Decadron as a COVID patient, but I thought I will enjoy the infusion and enjoy your talks at the same time, because we've also invested quite a capacity building in Pakistan, and we're hoping to work with DRK, with RAP, with Danish and Shahid and Babar and others, all old friends. So from me, it's just a late entry today because I've been down with COVID last couple of days, but alhamdulillah, we are looking forward, and we've just put together a clinical investigation center, which is probably a reasonable effort in a hospital which was not used to doing these kind of activities earlier on. It's a DRAP approved site for phase 3, phase 4. And we also conduct clinical research capacity building, including the NIH courses, and we do our own indigenous essentials of 16 topics related to that, and would love to collaborate and participate with all of you towards this clinical research society and capacity building in Pakistan, so that we can all come into a win-win situations. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Danish.
Thank you, sir. Sir, मेरी दुआएं आपके लिए, आपकी सेहत के लिए, आपको जल्दी शिफा दे. So, sir, I'll be thinking about you and praying for you and all of us. You are one of our early advisor for merit for research in Pakistan since your tenure at NUMS, and we learned a lot from you and look forward to learning more from you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Atif Mirza, I see you have raised your hands up. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I would like to wish all the best to Dr. Murtuza Qadri. Allah Ta'ala unko sehat de. We are already in talks with them. I think they're one of their colleagues by the name of Khulud is in collaboration with us for trying to establish Maruf Hospital as one of the sites in Pakistan. I just wanted to comment that. Thank you very much.
Very good. So, I'm thinking that instead of doing individual questions, I will just open the floor for a few more minutes to see if anyone else have any other comments. It's more of a, a first webinar, hopefully as part of many different webinars. We will start, we'll save all these questions and we'll start an online either a blog or a document of kind of a learning resource for all these questions as they come up in every webinar, and we'll build on it, and we will share that link with all the registered participants so that they can track on different replies and different information as we accumulate that knowledge. So we will create kind of a Wikipedia.
If you allow, there's one question that I'd like to have seen.
Please go ahead.
There's one question. I'll take advantage of Dr. Malik, Abdullah Malik Sahab being here as well. It says, and I'll just read out, lack of regulatory hurdles in Pakistan in reality means that there are inadequate health research regulations which are poorly enforced. This can potentially lead to ethics dumping. What is the opinion of the speaker on this concern? So I think I'd like to take that up. This is a very serious question. And I think what we have seen and what we have learned, there's a great deal of rigor that DRAP has applied on all the trials that we have submitted, with great data submission and independent publications that have been the requirement of this, and the source of phase 1 and phase 2 data has independently been verified. And there's so in my experience, the approvals that DRK has received have very much been at the levels which are really looking at what the guidelines globally say. Maybe Dr. Ubaid, you would like to add to that as well, please.
Exactly, Shahab. If this query was pertaining to pre-regulatory era of 2017, then I must say that it might be correct. But after the regulation enactment of Biosafety Rules 2017, all the regulatory permissions are being oversighted by DRAP. Although we have not granted so many clinical studies approval that can make a very big stigma. So all the regulations, all the clinical trials have been approved or in line with the regulatory approvals. And over to that, a couple of days back, we signed an agreement with the National University of Medicine Sciences, NUMS, And the point of discussion where which were in that the data integrity and the trial integrity is very much important, and we will not go for any large quantity of the trial to be conducted in Pakistan. Rather, we will go for those trials which we can be oversighted, which we can regulate easily, so that the name of Pakistani trial should not be compromised. Because we have many examples in from our neighboring country where the trials have been questioned about their data integrity. Not only trials, rather pharmaceutical quality data, and there many approvals have been rejected. Rather, products have been withdrawn due to the questions on integrity of the clinical trial, integrity of the product data. So we are very much cognizant of the fact that it's very important, and now world is a global village and everything you can track and trace. So we are trying to be the part of a team where our regulatory pathway or our clinical trial site should be in a mechanism which can be audited anytime, not only from Pakistani regulator, but from the external sources as well. And as Shahab has shared, that many multinational companies have already audited DRK for their clinical trials. At the same time, many companies are in contact with the draft that how they approve the regulatory pathway of the clinical trial. What is the mechanism for the audit of the trial? So we do hope, being a regulator, that our regulations are enough strict that they can oversight and they can go for any auditing. Definitely, if there will be any problem in the trial, then it will be shut down as and when identified. So I assure on behalf of the regulatory authority that if anything in that trial, then it will be taken to the regulatory pathway, and definitely it will go a good way. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So we're about till 12 minutes over time. I think we can let every attendees go, but I would love to see if the panelists from both of our sides have a few more minutes. And we can stay as we stop the broadcasting and chat a little bit more about next steps and action items. So Waleed, please go ahead and stop the broadcast of the webinar, and with thanks to
Thank you
everyone.
very much, everyone.